All aboard the Inland Empire Express. 10:50 a.m., leaving no listeners behind. KCAA.
Welcome to Money Talk. I'm Jesse Torres.
Michael Sanchez.
All right, Aaron, it is Wednesday. It's 4 o'clock. It is time for another edition of
Money Talk.
That's right. Well, so I'm excited. We've got a couple great guests lined up today. I know you're going to love both of these. They are right down your alley.
Yeah, anything social media is so important to me, and I preach it and teach it and live it. So, and I know a lot of people that do that right now. It's like, but the question is, are they just spending time on social media? Are they just sharing things? Or are they able to make money out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was
because somebody's making money out of it.
Well, you're absolutely right. I was actually teaching a class today for the city of Manhattan Beach, and it was a social selling class, essentially what it was. And one of the things we were talking about on the sidebar was essentially that I spend so much time on social, but I don't really spend time selling my business. It's great. Thank you for this, because I didn't really understand how I could use LinkedIn to develop the business. And so you're absolutely right. There are so many folks that are active on it, but they're not really using it. And you, to use your term from a few weeks ago, in a productive manner, in an entrepreneurial way.
Yeah. And what I'm finding as well is there's a lot of different companies that are resulting from that. It's like they're hearing that. They're saying, we understand people are sharing and that they're not making money, but they have an idea on how to make it. We've interviewed LeafIt, for example, which was an app that was created specifically for that reason, to push products. But I think that what we're talking to today is a very forward thinking, and I think it's going to be implemented pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I agree. But before we get to our current guest, later on in the session, we're going to be talking corporate social responsibility, and we're going to be talking about current research that suggests that consumers really care about how socially responsible companies are. And so we're going to be talking about the results. And then we're going to talk a little bit about mobile payments. And specifically, we're going to talk about the impact that Apple Pay has had and will be having in the future. Because, as you know, I mean, the iPhone and Apple, it's just a part. It's just a part of the fiber in our fabric, not only here in this country, but in the world. And so now that Apple Pay is off and running, what is that going to mean for consumer purchases, and what's that going to mean for the business community?
It is a confusing terrain for consumers, I think, that don't currently use it. But there's like this discovery mode that will happen, and then it'll shoot off, I think, very quickly. That's just my opinion, because of other different types of payments. But I'm so interested in that social responsibility, because I've never heard about it until you started mentioning it on the show, and now I understand how important it is. I think we're going to understand by the end of this really how essential it is that companies have it as part of their plan.
Absolutely. But let's start things off. We've got on the phone, we've got Mark Blanchard, who's the CEO of PassUBuy. Mark, welcome to Money Talk.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining us today. So, Mark, like Aaron said, social is where it's at. And Aaron took a sip of his water, and he's on his way to the paramedics at this point. So social is where it's at. And it seems so many entrepreneurs out there are trying to figure out how to, in a sense, crack that social nut for themselves. We had the big guys. We started out, in the early days with MySpace, and that was the 800-pound gorilla. Then we had Facebook come along, and they overtook it. And then we've had along the way, we've had the Instagrams, we had the LinkedIn. And these have been great platforms for communication, for social communication. They've, in a sense, really, while some may argue that they kind of took away human interaction, I'd like to believe that they've actually enhanced human interaction, and they've brought us actually closer. But now we're beyond that. We're in round 3 of this whole social innovation, and you launched. You're the CEO of a company called PassUBuy that I consider to be probably in that next phase of social. Can you briefly describe to our audience exactly what PassUBuy is?
Okay, sure. PassUBuy it's an online marketplace that allows users to buy and sell items on Facebook with sharing items on their network. We created the platform where our members can buy and sell knowing that they're dealing with someone they know or someone their friends know. So in a nutshell, looking at Facebook and seeing, old friends from college and stuff and all the connections that were happening, we didn't really see anyone capitalizing on those friend networks. So we thought there's got to be a way for us to sell items online. And there was some, I believe it was Facebook actually made an attempt at it, where people would just post items for sale and everyone on Facebook could see it. That really got away from the social aspect of it, because then you were looking at people's items that you didn't know. So what we did is we created a program that will track relationships beyond just friend to friend. Sort of like 6 degrees of separation. Right. We're able to track within the program. If I have 200 friends and I pass an item on to my 200 friends in the news feed, and then they pass it on and they pass it on, I can track those relationships. And that way, when you're selling an item, if it gets passed a couple times and the fourth person buys it, there's a train of relationships to that item. So it's a safer environment for buying and selling.
I love that you're doing this, because I've run contests and promotions on Facebook, and I've seen the ones that make the most amount of social sharing are usually the ones where they have a benefit in that if so many of their friends actually sign up, they get more entry levels to win. Now, I'm not saying you can win through this platform, but in essential, now you're making a platform where if I share it, I'm more than likely to be compensated for it, versus like a giveaway where only one person wins, kind of everybody wins.
Correct. The idea was really born, as most ideas are, either frustrated with what's currently out there, or a lack of a product on the market that you think would be needed, and that's really how this happened. I'd had a couple of sketchy issues with Craigslist. People representing they owned something and they didn't. I've had items stolen as soon as I put it up for sale. People came to look at it at my house, and then I woke up the next morning and things were stolen. That's really where this was born. And also, there's eBay. Let's talk about the 800-pound gorillas. Obviously, Facebook's the 800-pound gorilla in the social world. At a time for used selling of items, it was eBay. And then you started seeing Craigslist come on. And eBay has its own flaws. The big complaint with eBay is you post an item up there amongst millions. Let's say your wife has a Gucci purse. Try typing in Gucci purse on eBay and see how many tens and tens of thousands of Gucci purses pop up.
Right. And you don't know if it's a knockoff or real, yeah.
Exactly. Now, if you tie that into my business, you're going to know the person, or you're going to know someone who knows the person that's selling that item. So there's a trust factor involved here.
And that is that's a great feature, because how many I can tell you that I personally hesitate buying things on Craigslist, because I've heard the horror stories. I've heard examples such as yours, Mark, where someone dropped by, looked at the product, said, I'm not interested. The next day, you realize that they came overnight and stole it. It is sort of sketchy, and so what you're doing is you're almost creating a sense of security, a security factor or an authenticity factor to the seller, because you're, in a sense, the people that are passing this on in PassUBuy are actually vouching for the seller. Exactly.
We didn't create, there's been studies shown, about when consumers trust someone. I think the statistic was 92% of consumers trust recommendations from other people they know. 77% of consumers are more likely to buy a product when learning about it from friends or family. And so we took sort of bad experiences, our knowledge of Facebook and also, people who will buy from people they know, and that's how the idea came about.
So I literally told Jesse about less than a week ago, I have a 4K television that I wanted to sell for $400, and I did ask him, "Do you know anyone?" I don't know why I asked him directly, like as though he knows everybody that absolutely wants TV. But I said, "Do you know anybody that needs a 4K television?" Because I wanted to keep it local, and I didn't want to put it on eBay and all the things and that go through eBay. But I was thinking, well, if I post it to Facebook, will people help me sell it? I don't know. But with this method, now they'll be told that if they share it, they get to get it, or do they have? How does that process work?
It's a good question. So if you just post it on Facebook through the normal way you were going to do it, hey, friends and family, I've got this TV, what's the incentive for anyone to do anything with it other than look at it when someone's posting a picture of their kid dressed up for Halloween? They look at it, they move on, it's gone. There's no incentive. There's no reason for them to do anything with it. What we do is we incense people in the middle, the people that are passing it, 2% of the sale price when an item sells. So there's an incentive for people to see it's
just by clicking the share.
Exactly. It's compounding math. If I have 200 friends and my 200 friends have 200 friends and those 200 friends have 200 friends, when you push that item just using simple math, 8 million. If everyone passed it, now we all know not everyone's going to pass every single item, but if everyone did, 8 million people that are within your network. And your network's it's bigger than you think. 8 million people would see that TV for sale.
Well, and so, Mark, in this case, I mean, we're talking about the sale of items comparable to what you would see on eBay, where it's one-off. I have a TV, I have a dresser, I have whatever it is. Do you also offer the PassUBuy product to retailers, for example? I mean, if someone is in the business of selling shoes, can they list the shoes and and repeat and as they sell them, put more shoes up there? Or, I mean, is this a person-to-person platform or is it a B2C platform?
It's a good question. We built it as peer-to-peer, and as we got going with it, we started getting requests from brands and stores that wanted to use it, and a few of them. You guys familiar with Etsy? Etsy is
yes,
okay.
Of course. I have a few people on that.
Right, and we've had several of them start using our site just because, for the same reason your product gets lost in eBay, products get lost on Etsy. So we've had several stores that are using this because they've got lots of followers, and they can now promote their items to their followers' news feeds so that they see it. So yes, we are actually working with both, and we have some bigger plans in the future to work with brands directly, because if you think about how we are in our program are tracking relationships, that is very powerful. We have found out to people, like a Nike or a Nine West shoes. They really want to know those relationships, and they want to. If my wife buys a pair of Nine West shoes, Nine West wants to know who else she told about it or who she passed that item on to. So right now, what a brand posts an ad on Facebook, they target women, they target people of a certain economic. But what they really can't track is what happens with it after that point, in the web world. We can actually track when it's passed on.
Now, I'm going to throw out a little bit of a curveball to you, because as everybody knows in the Facebook world, they have their special algorithm sharing feature. So some posts get shared and others do not. Are we basing it on the fact that, at least probably 10% of your actual friends will see it, or are we basing it, or is there a mechanism to be able to work with their algorithm in a more suitable way so they don't start blocking certain posts?
Well, anyone who tells you that they have figured out Facebook's algorithm or Google's algorithm is fibbing. It's a complicated world working with Facebook. They change unexpectedly. It's an ever-evolving thing. When we started this a year ago, about 30% of the posts were getting through to people. And I think now it's down to 10 with some of the changes they've made. It is a little frustrating. Yes. And what we've started doing in our advertising and other things we're doing is also trying to drive people to our actual website. Everything is still done through Facebook, but we do have a standing page that when you click on an item, it'll tell you whether or not it's an item within your network. So we're doing some marketing pushing to the site as opposed to all just pushing to Facebook, when it hits the news feeds, because we are concerned about that. It is a problem, okay. and you said it earlier, they are the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and there's just no getting around some of the things they're doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, do you have plans to move to any other social nets, or are you entirely focused on Facebook at this point?
Well, right now, you have to be focused, right? So we were initially focused on Facebook because they are the biggest, they have the largest reach. We are actually working on right now, and one of our plans is, how do we integrate what we're doing now within our friend network across multiple platforms, integrating Facebook with Pinterest, Instagram, other new social networks that pop up. We think we can do what we're doing in Facebook across all platforms. It's just a matter of where do you put your money and where do you put your focus at this given time.
Yeah. So now, if someone passes on, let's say, I'm selling a pair of shoes, let's say, and I go ahead and I post it on PassUBuy, and then it gets posted on my Facebook account. Do I have to pay a subscription, or do I pay a fee up front to allow me to do this, or how do you get paid?
Okay. So it's very simple. We try to keep it, the financial part of it, as simple as possible. Okay. We charge 10% of the sale price once an item is sold. So listing an item for free, you could put 10,000 items up there. You don't get charged as the seller unless an item sells. Then it's a 10% transaction fee. And that 10% transaction fee that comes to PassUBuy really doesn't come to PassUBuy. I'm paying, if the item gets passed twice, I'm paying 2% to the first person that passed. I'm paying 2% to the second person that passed. And I'm covering all of the PayPal transaction fees. So there's no hidden credit card fees. There's no, I made my box fancier like on eBay, so it's an extra 10%. It's 10% no matter what, but we're paying off the people that are passing, and we're covering all of the PayPal transaction fees. So we tried to keep it really simple.
So you handle, so you will go ahead and you'll handle all of the transaction. In other words, if someone decides to buy, you'll go ahead and you'll accept the PayPal payment. You'll distribute the 2% to the various parties. You'll handle the payment of the fees, and then you'll go ahead and then you'll credit the account, the balance to the seller.
No, so no, we don't handle that paperwork. So what happens is when a person purchases the item, just like on an eBay, you can pay. You receive a PayPal invoice, and that will come from the seller. The seller will say, "Oh, hey, pay me now." As soon as you hit that button, it's automatic in the system, so it's not like we're manually sending out, but it is done automatically where invoices are sent, payments are received, and then if there are two people in the middle that are receiving 2%, they are automatically distributed that money by PayPal all at the same time. Now, what's interesting about the PayPal, when we launched this, PayPal didn't understand anything other than point A to point B transactions. Right. They actually denied us, believe it or not, for about 4 to 6 months, our application, because they just didn't understand what we were doing with these little micro payments. Mm-hmm. So we ended up in, long story, we ended up with some pretty high up people at PayPal discussing what we were doing. They understood it. They had just purchased, I'm drawing a blank now on the company, but they had purchased a company just recently that did those things. So we were sort of a test case for them in doing these little, micro payments to the smaller entities off of one initial transaction. Does that make sense? I mean, so everything is done the moment something's purchased and PayPal money is sent. Everything else is just spit out automatically to the people who were the passer-ons and the people that sold it.
So now I have a question. When it comes to my friends, let's say I run about 5 different pages. Does that apply to pages as well?
Pages are different. There are not okay. So if you're like a business, right? You have a business on there. There are not relationships in those people in any of the Facebook servers. So there is. If you like a business page, let's say Coca-Cola has 1 million, likes on their page, there is no relationship with any of those 1 million people. It's impossible to track.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is really, really geared to the end user. This is finally giving the end user a way to not, I would do like every other post a product,
right.
Or maybe 1 out of 3, because then people will start saying, well, he's just selling stuff. But I can see that. Now it's about getting stuff out there that people want to share, right, and that makes enough money. So if I had like a lower ticket, I don't know. Do you see a dollar amount that does really well on this platform?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've seen people put $1,000 items on there. I've seen Yeah, well, here's what I want. I want everything over $50 because the money that PassUBuy, if you think about it, if things get passed twice, our margins are slim to none. This is a business of, picking up nickels. We weren't greedy. There's other sites charging 25%, for listing items. And this was more about getting it out there. So I prefer things about $50 to $250. I prefer things that are easily shippable. Right? If you've got what we struggle with, and I have a lot of friends that when they put, their couch up for sale,
Right.
you've really limited, your pool of local people that can look at it. And it still works, and we've had several items sell that way, but you get better traction when it's something that is easily put in a box and shipped somewhere. But as far as, we've had car dealerships. I have some friends that own quite a few car dealerships, and they've come to me and they want to start promoting some of their car sales on our site. So there can be some pretty big ticket items on there.
And that's interesting because we had Stephanie Robbins on the show last week, and she is an expert in affiliate marketing. And she actually said the same thing. She said, what works best with the traditional affiliate marketing is if it's a product, something tangible that you can put in a box and ship it.
Yes.
And she says, services can work, but they don't work as well. It's the stuff that you can ship from point A to point B that are really successful with the affiliate. And, I got to tell you, Mark, this is pretty exciting. And I'm looking at Aaron, and I already see his mind thinking, just on his personal Facebook account, you've got 5,000 friends or something, or followers on your your personal
I don't know if
account.
Facebook might listen to this and close my other accounts. I have 3 accounts with about 15,000. So I've never subscribed to the idea of that pages work. I like personal profiles because it is, like you said, peer to peer, and you know who your relationships are. Pages, you don't know who's connected to you really unless they like or comment your stuff. I think it's ridiculous. But so that's me.
So I think we just found a way to sell your $4,000 TV for in fact, maybe $4,000. Why go cheap?
If it's a 4K, I just might be the guy buying it from you.
Okay, there it is.
So Mark, if someone wants to learn a little more about PassUBuy, how do they get in touch?
First off, go to PassUBuy.com. My information's all on there, but I can give it out directly to you here. It's M. Blanchard, that's B as in boy, Lanchard at PassUBuy.com.
Fantastic. Well, Mark Blanchard, CEO of PassUBuy.com, thank you for joining us on Money Talk this afternoon.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more Money Talk after these messages.
Something